Today we're talking about safety for women, for us all, if you're traveling a lot by train, for example. I'm going to go through a guide that I found online and give you my thoughts on it. The guide is called A Guide to Female Safety on Public Transport. Welcome to Travel Devil. I'm your host Clara Franken, and in a world full of mass tourism, we're here to talk about unconventional travel. Let's get into it. Hi, and welcome to this week's episode. Today's episode is a bit different than my usual episodes. I'm your host, Clara Franken, and this is Travel Devil, where we talk about sustainable travel. But today, we're going a little different route because I personally feel like I need to talk about a very important subject matter, which is safety of women or safety of us all when we're traveling. Yeah, I'm starting this off with claiming or saying that I'm going to share a couple of stories that might be triggering for some people. So if you don't want to listen to those stories, you can sit this out. If you're up to listening to this story, maybe grab a blanket or take care of yourself, grab a tea, listen to this with a partner or in a safe environment, right? This is really important. Maybe as a quick introduction on why I started, why I wanted to make this episode, it was because yesterday I talked with a friend of mine who shared me a story that I'm not going to disclose fully, but she had abuse history with her dad, started at a very young age, and still is going today, more than 20 years later. These kind of things, they cannot happen. I don't get how it even could happen. Like, he couldn't even put it into words. Like, is this rape? Is this some abuse? Really, like, because it's also a family member, a loved one that is doing these things. I can share more personal stories, but I don't want to get in all of that. I just want to share a couple of notes on why this is important and why we need to take care of each other. There's so many girls out there that have experienced bad situations, mainly by men, also men by other men. Of course, there's also any gender who can abuse a situation in physical or emotional ways. But like I said, I'm focusing on what I'm talking about now, right? Abuse by men. Wow. Not all men, but always men. I want to talk about what to do in those situations. Because another thing is that a couple of months ago, I was in France and there was this amazing group of people that came to me and to us. We were a couple of friends in Paris and they were from an initiative. And basically they were saying like, hey, there's a lot of sexual assault happening in trains, in train stations, and public transport as well. So we need to talk about this, open conversation, be like an open ear, and we want to tell you a little bit of what we're doing. And I was interested, of course, even if I was in a hurry to catch my train. I talked to them on the way to the train. Basically, they told me that women are 93% of the victims of sexual violence on public transport. In the Paris region, 76% of the victims are under 30 and 26% of the victims are underaged girls. Okay. Elsewhere in France, 80% of the victims are under 30 and 50% are underage girls. Okay, we don't love these statistics, but there are things that you can do. There are things you can do to prevent, well, not to prevent, but there's options for you out there if you are seeing something that happening, or if you're experiencing yourself. So what they did is they have a phone number, an emergency number you can dial, which is 3117. You can dial, you can send an SMS, or you can use an application, which is like the 3117 app. And you also have emergency call boxes on station platforms, which is amazing. They also have safety places. So in the stations, they have, of course, cameras, surveillance systems, with storage up to 72 hours, which means that you shouldn't wait too long, of course, to report this. But if it's happening right now and you want to get out of a situation, you can go to specific places. For example, if I remember it well, you could go to Parisian, which is like a perfume shop in the train station. So in every train station, basically, they have a couple of safe spaces. And there, the people, they know that they are a safe space. So the people working there, if you're going in there and you're directly explaining your emergency or what's going on, they will know what to do. They will be able to help you, which I think is amazing. And I really hope that a lot of countries will integrate this, because it would be so, so, so important to have safe places inside of shops in every station. That these people who are a safe space, they know they're a safe space, they're educated on this, and yeah, they can do something. At the same time, if it's not happening to you, you're seeing this happening, you can again call this number. If in your country this doesn't appear, you can probably call the police or look it up already if this exists for your country of choice or where you're traveling as well. And again, you can have a look if there's safety spaces and try to reach out to them, go to them, talk to this person when it's just happening, right? We want to help each other out so that these kind of things don't happen anymore. We're talking about the day and age. I'm sorry, but this is me ranting a little bit because I need to ventilate after having this conversation with my friend yesterday. I was so shocked. And there's so many girls, friends, who have experienced some sort of trauma in this way and who are close to me. And every time you disclose some information about what happened to yourself, they come and say, I had a similar experience. But yeah, another data I wanted to share is this time from the European Union Agency for Fundamental Rights. They did a survey. The survey was released in November 2024, which is not long ago. And they said that the survey finds issues such as the prevalence of violence. 1 in 3 women in the EU have experienced physical violence, sexual violence, or threats in their adulthood. 1 in 6 women in the EU have experienced sexual violence, including rape, in their adulthood. Home is not always a safe place for many women. 1 in 5 have faced physical or sexual violence from their partner, relative, or another member in their household. 1 in 3 women have been sexually harassed at work. Younger women report a higher prevalence, with 2 in 5 having experienced sexual harassment in their workplace. I want to stop there. I mean, this is enough to tell you how important this topic is. And sometimes when I talk to guys and they're like, wow, this is the first time I hear this. I mean, talk to more girls, right? Educate yourself a little bit on this topic. So what we want to do is create a safe environment on the train by taking care of each other, knowing where to go. So please, to all of my listeners out there, when you're traveling with a partner or in a safe environment, right? This is really important. Look, is there a number? Is there a safe space? Is there something I can do if I were to encounter this situation? Specifically for the country where you're living in, right? If you're traveling a lot in a specific country, you should know this for your country. Okay. And if you have a kid, please educate it well so that these things don't happen. Yeah. All right. What I now wanted to do is go through a guide that I found online and give you my thoughts on it. The guide is called A Guide to Female Safety on Public Transport. It's published by a certain John in 2022. First things first. So, number one is plan your journey. Make sure you know the route you're going to and you know where you're going to catch the bus or the train and where you will be getting off. If you have a prolonged wait for a connection, then try to find out where the waiting rooms are, other facilities such as cafes and at a station. Right, about that, I think it's important, of course, to plan your journey. Again, I think this is a part of it, right? If you're planning your journey, that's good for everyone. Sometimes you're traveling and you cannot really plan it so well, but it's of course good to have a look at where's maybe places where you can sit. As for me, for example, I travel a lot in Germany, in Frankfurt station, especially during some times of the day. It's just, I never really felt totally unsafe, but a lot of people, junkies or people who want money from you, would start talking to you. And I had it once that I didn't want to give money, and then they got upset about that. Let's put it in those words. So from then on, I decided to always grab a coffee when I'm waiting for the next train. Definitely, if I'm waiting for more than like 20 minutes, I would just be like, okay, let me grab a coffee. I'd rather just sit inside, be in my own peace of mind. So that's a tip I can give you for places where you don't feel so safe, or just in generally where you don't want to be talked to all the time. Second point of the guide: identify your exits and alarms. All right. I mean, that's another thing I never really look at, to be honest. I don't travel and directly identify where's my exit and alarms, but maybe subconsciously, of course, I know that where it is. So I also know where my bags are. I sometimes check again where my bag is, but that's not because I'm a woman. That's just because I don't want my stuff to be stolen, right? But yes, look at where you can go. But I think those kind of like trying to identify it explicitly would be more in a situation already where you start to feel uncomfortable, instead of already when you're entering, because you cannot travel and be like afraid all the time. Then you cannot enjoy the travel either. And I know a lot of people, a lot of girls who travel alone, including myself, and I most of the time don't have problems. I don't want to become this person that's always scared of traveling or going around because something might happen. Okay. Next point. Let others know where you are. Yes, that's something I do. I love to do this because I'm just like sharing my journey with my family and my boyfriend or my friends. So, of course, this is something I do. I don't share my exact location, but I would tell them, like, hey, I'm on the road, or I'm chatting with them anyway. So, sending voice messages, calling each other. I'm very close with my family. So, yeah, we do that a lot. So, there's always somebody who knows where I am when. But if I'm circling this back to my bicycle journey, on my bicycle journey, I did share my exact location all the time because I was really alone on a bicycle in the woods and out there. Even it was still in Belgium. I was there. I was on the road for like 10 days. So it was good that somebody knew where I was all the time because, of course, I don't want to use my internet all the time or continue to chat. I'm cycling. So, but then again, I've got examples of even a woman I interviewed for my podcast who was such an inspiring source, Tana Mustima. Yeah, and she travels the world all alone, been doing this for so many years. She never had any problems. And her tip was trust people. And she also said, like, people will come to you if it's unsafe and they will tell you when it's unsafe. So listen to those people who have their expertise. And if they tell you here it's unsafe to camp outside, come closer to our house to camp. listen, and you will be protected by the people directly. And she never had any bad encounters. Okay, next tip. Sit where others are. So, of course, in the bus or on the train or in public transport, if you sit next to people that you seem to be trusting, then you can sit where they are. Of course, if there's like a weird group of people or they're like, I don't know, loud or for some reason they give you a weird vibe, you can sit alone on the other side of the train. I personally would do that. But in general, yes, if it would be maybe better to sit where other people are so you're not like totally alone. But that again depends on where you're traveling and how comfortable you're feeling. I think in general, the most important part is to listen to your gut feeling. Next, limit distractions. So many of us use our headphones, earpods, watch movies, and content on our phones. But because we're completely immersed in our music, sometimes we're blocking out our senses and we are not aware of our surrounding. Although, again, sharing from personal experience, sometimes if there's something weird happening around me, I rather just focus on my tablet or phone or computer, because then I don't seem interested and I don't seem like I'm listening to the conversation. But yeah, of course, it's a nice tip as well to just, if you're like totally entering a space and then you're not looking at your surrounding at all, to be mindful of where you are. Okay, next. Avoid traveling alone if possible. I don't know if I agree. It depends on where you are. I would say you have to be able to travel everywhere alone. But again, not every country or every location in a country is safe. So, of course, to take care of yourself, it's important to avoid it in specific areas. I would agree. But actually, like my anger towards us girls having to adapt to not travel alone is bigger than my willpower to really do this. So I would say, like, yeah, you can still travel alone and like follow the other tips. But yes, I know. I also had family members who would tell me like, hey, if you're at this place alone in the night, let me come pick you up, instead of like walking home or taking the public transport in the middle of the night. Some areas of Brussels, for example, because I'm from Belgium. All right, next point, use taxis correctly. That actually makes me think about a point where in Germany, in some cities, they have free taxis for girls, which means that you can go pick up a couple of coupons and then you can use the taxi, but it's only for girls and you cannot use it to go to a party. You can only use it to go to a specific address, which like probably is your or your friend's home place where they live. And so there's free taxis in Germany for some people. Then again, if you're uncomfortable taking the bus for some reason, you can use a taxi. But of course, in some places, maybe taxis aren't super safe either. I don't know. Just make sure if your driver looks weird or you don't trust him or her, you don't trust the vibe, follow your gut feeling again. Ask them to show that something official is turned on in their taxi. Maybe take a picture of the number plate or check if the number plate is matching with the one that you had in your app. One time I took the taxi alone in Mexico and my friends were really, like my Mexican friends were not sure about if that would be a good idea, because I'm also most of the time in Europe. It was the first time out of like Europe besides Thailand when I was a kid with my family, and I was an adult alone in Mexico, and they said like, hey, share your location. So that's a moment where I did share my live location, and I was actively looking on Google Maps while sitting next to the Uber driver just to see if he's going in the right direction of my friend's place. So maybe I was a bit scared because of my friends who were like telling me that they wouldn't want to necessarily let me take the taxi alone, but there was no other choice at the time. Okay, next. Keep your valuables safe. All right, we talked about that, of course. Put your stuff in a place that you have maybe a view of. If you know the country and you know that there's most of the time nothing to be like, no people stealing stuff, you can already like put it aside. But like the most valuable stuff, I would always keep an eye on. If you're going to the bathroom, just ask your neighbor to take a look at it. And I feel like social pressure, or no, not that's not the word, like your surrounding can take care of it. And if you tell your neighbor to look at your computer while you're going to the bathroom, somebody else also hears that you just said that. And if they would do something, like there's like this social pressure thing that nobody will do anything and your goods will be safe. Next, use your mobile phone properly. Avoid taking on your mobile when walking. Before taking out your mobile, see if who is around, because there might be thieves approaching you. All right, that's the text I'm reading right now. I'm not sure about that. Again, it depends on the place where you're traveling. In Mexico, I was a bit scared of taking out my phone. In Europe, I never had this issue. But yeah, maybe what would be interesting is to have an emergency function installed on your smartphone. So if something happens, you can directly do an emergency call. Next, don't be afraid to move. Trust your instincts. And if you're somewhere uncomfortable, go away. Yes, go away if you're uncomfortable. If you're on public transport and you feel like this is not a location you want to stay at, you can either just leave the public transport, get out, or go to the front is what I would suggest. Like, because the front there's a driver, for some reason, I would always suggest you to go to the front. I would do that. Then traveling by night or traveling at night can be a bit scary sometimes as well. So if there's like empty train stations and you don't feel comfortable, there's somebody who seems okay. You can sit next to that person or close to that person in the train station. But when you're fully alone, for some reason, sometimes the mind goes all kind of directions. You can see if there's like, let's say, a guard, or if there's a place where you can sit inside, the place where you buy tickets, call a friend if you feel unsafe. If everything is fine, I mean, normally there should not be a problem. It's just, you're just alone, right? And it's just the mind taking you places and not the reality. Next, don't talk to strangers is one of these points that again, I don't agree with. I would say do talk to strangers. It's very important to talk to strangers. It's important to know your surrounding, to know who the people are. If you're traveling to random places, you don't know anybody, you need to trust strangers in a specific way. Of course, you don't blindly trust anybody, but the strangers are the ones who will tell you if a specific place is trustworthy or not, right? So yeah, don't trust all random people, but do talk to strangers. I don't agree with that little part. Okay, and then finally, the last point of this guide says, if you spot something suspicious and see something on public transports, for example, a bag which doesn't appear to belong to anyone, let a member of staff at the station know. It might be nothing, but it's better to be cautious. Okay, yeah, good. You can also do that, but I mean, in general, yeah, if there's something suspicious, of course you can say it. But I never personally like saw something suspicious, to be honest. If there's like a bag, I'm assuming that somebody's coming back to grab the bag and I don't want to do anything with it. All right. Haha. So to round up the conversation, that was a lot. I wanted to repeat maybe the most important parts. Listen to your gut feeling. If there's something you're seeing around you, keep an eye on it. If you are in a specific country and you want to already be sure you save the phone number of any organization you could call in emergency case, and you can save that contact number already on your phone if you're traveling a lot by train, for example. Do go to people to find a safe place if something's happening to you in the train stations, for example. Yeah, I think there's not so much more we can do. I would love to have a conversation on my podcast with an expert on this topic as well in the future. So if you happen to know somebody who can give me this inside information, who can really talk about it as an expert from an expert point of view, because I'm just sharing my opinion and research and experience, then I would love to hear from you as well. So please write me, DM me, email me. I'm Clara Franken on social media, or contact@clarafranken.com for my email. If you like this kind of content, you would maybe be interested in sustainable content, sustainable travel content in general, because this is a topic I talk about, go and give my podcast a follow on your favorite app. Give me a rating, and thank you. Take care of yourself, take care of the people around you, spread love, spread awareness, be kind to yourself, and I'm thinking about you, I'm seeing you, and I wish you a beautiful, beautiful day, beautiful week, wherever you are. This was Travel Devil, brought to you by me, your host, Clara Franken. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to continue the conversation or suggest any future guests, you can go to my Instagram @Clara Franken. Take care, and I will see you next Thursday.